morning, sir. What's your name?
My name's Leroy Bledsoe. I started to work here several years ago when I came here to be an instructor. I had been through smoke divers, and when I came back to help, I was in class 2 of smoke divers. I came back to help with the next class, and I was offered a job here at the fire academy. Terry Ishii and I were the last 2 that was hired. At that time, there was two instructors here, Bill Warren and Jerry Moore. And then Terry Ishii and I were hired the same date, February 1st of 1978. We started instructing here, and when we were here for a long time, we were only 4 instructors to cover the entire state. Not only that, but anything that was here was our job too. We were plumbers, electricians, grass cutters. We repaired everything and done everything, but we were all 4 here. Terry and I started our career here, and we've had an outstanding career, and I wouldn't change it for nothing for all the time that I spent. I left in '85, but between '78 and '85, I've touched a lot of firemen. I've tried to give them an education that would keep them protected, keep them from getting hurt or killed. And I think we've accomplished that in the time that I was here. The academy's here for one thing only, and that's education. Every fireman, volunteer, paid, it doesn't make any difference. They need their education, and that education has got to come from instructors here. We taught here in the daytime, and 1 or 2 of us would leave anywhere from 1 to 3 o'clock in the evening and go somewhere and teach a 4-night volunteer class. But we do it 1 night at a time. We'd teach it and come back. My day started, I'd get here about 7, start working on class, get the class ready, start teaching around 8, do whatever we had to do. I'd leave here 1 to 3 o'clock, depending on where we had to go to get there, how long it would take. Teach a class at a volunteer station, get through there at 10 o'clock, get back home anywhere from 12 to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, get up 7 o'clock the next morning and do it again. And we've done that for 4 days running. And we've done that quite often. But I got a lot of good experience that a lot of firemen will not get. And that's because I work for the academy. I got to go see things and do things and get schools that they won't get. And it was one of the best things I had. When we taught here, everything was tough. You worked hard here, you got an education, but we tried to have fun at the same time. But when we got through with class, the students, they were tired, they'd give out, and they would look forward to getting to where they could get a shower, get cleaned up, lay down and go to sleep. There was no dorm here at the time. Everybody had to stay in hotels. Majority stayed at a Days Inn at 49 and 80. There was a Days Inn there, and that's where most of the students would stay. There's 1 or 2 other places they'd stay, but that's the main one. And during smoke divers, you could go down through that hotel and you could smell Bengay and tell exactly which room all the students were in, because they had a well supply. Every time we do smoke divers, we've done that twice a year. But it'd drive out the bugs pretty good with the Bengay that was around there, but it worked out pretty good for us. But I've had some good experiences here at this academy. I've had guys that have come to me that are, after years, and said they were safe and were able to do firefighting in a safe manner where they didn't get hurt. And some of the people that they work with, they've been able to give them the knowledge also. And that's what makes my day, is to know that that's happening. When I was here, I guess you could say I was similar to a DI. A lot of times that's what they'd call me, DI.
Can you talk a little bit about like your first year, what it was like on campus and the challenge?
The first year,
what we're trying to accomplish.
the first year was a busy year for us. We got to doing some teaching. One of the first extrication classes that I taught, I got educated just as well as the students did on a particular subject, because I went up to the north end of the state and was teaching on one side of the car using all the hydraulic tools, all the Hurst tools, the jaws of life. And I got through with that side of the car and all the tools, and I asked if there's any questions. And this one gentleman raised his hand. I said, yes, sir, what can I do? He said, you know, all of that stuff is good, but we don't have that. I said, well, what do you have? Well, let's see here. We've got a come along, a pry bar, a hacksaw. Oh, and we took a spring and cut it off, put a handle on it, and sharpened it up kind of like a knife. And we got this hammer, and we can use that to cut on the metal too. I said, okay. And I thought to myself, well, plan B, because I done messed this one up to start with. So we went to the other side of the car and got the products that he had as far as the tools, and we started working with it. That taught me, as far as teaching, to find out where your students are and what they've got to work with, so you can teach that and then teach the good stuff where everything has progressed to hydraulics and all of this. But they learn more using their instruments first, their tools first, than going down there and trying to make a good show out of hydraulics or something. From that day forward, I always found out what the classes were, who I was teaching, what they had, the whole 9 yards. I could ask questions and find out. We would teach classes, like I said, our work week back then averaged anywhere from 80 to 90 hours a week. We didn't have an 8 to 5 job. It said 8 to 5 when we were hired, but in order to do the education, there wasn't but 4 of us for the whole state of Mississippi. In order to do as much as we could to get the education out, it took that much time for us to teach. I can remember one of the largest LP schools that we taught, the LP Tank and Christmas Tree. We were on the Mississippi Gulf Coast at Bay St. Louis. And there was myself, Terry Ishii was the ramrod of it. He was on the side with the microphone. Bill Warren was sitting on the go-kart, as we called it. He had the controls to open the gas and all of this. And we had another guy that had the torch to light it. Well, during that class, we started at 7 o'clock. There was enough students down there that we finished the tank and then moved over, finished the LP Christmas Tree and then moved to the tank. We got through at midnight, and that's just as fast as I could run them, one behind the other. And I was a dumb fellow that was taking them all in. When we got through at midnight, I was tired. Well, they had a crawfish boil for us, and we ate crawfish starting at midnight, and then from there, we got loaded up and started coming back home. And when we hit that van, my eyes were wanting to shut quick, and I would just give out. And all the students that was down there, every one of them got to go through the tank and the tree and got to do, we had a marvelous time that time. But that was one of the biggest classes as far as the tank Christmas tree I'd ever seen in my life. But that was my goal when I started here, is to teach. I started as a volunteer in South Haven in 1976 and was fortunate enough to be able to come here as an instructor. And the way I actually got the smoke divers, the chief and the deputy chief at the time in South Haven, it was all volunteer. They had the 2-man election and I won. And the chief's name at the time was Vernon McCammon. And I came down to smoke divers. I had no idea what I was getting into. All I knew was I was coming to a school that dealt with breathing apparatus. I figured that'd be cool. Well, I'm gonna tell you, don't nobody know but me and the 4 walls at day's end how bad I was hurting. And my partner for the school, smoke divers, was an MSA rep by the name of Jim Frazee. He stayed over there also, but he had to use some alcohol at night to calm his pain down, and then we get started again the next day. And between the two of us, when we were going through smoke divers, you could put everything he and I both knew, put it in the thimble, and it was still going to be hard to find. But we made it through the class, and that's when I got an offer to go to work here at the Fire Academy when I came back the second time for the third class of smoke divers to assist in teaching.
Could you, with a little bit of time we got remaining, I hate we don't have a lot of time for you because I know you got a lot of history, but
No problem.
Could you talk about, kind of compare, contrast where y'all were and where we are today, and just your thoughts on how far the academy's come, in your opinion?
It's so unbelievable with the academy the way it is now. The number of instructors that are here, the buildings that are here, the props that are here, and just what they can accomplish as far as number-wise getting to people. You've got some instructors out there that are part-time instructors for the academy. And when we were teaching here, we finally ended up with a north region and a south region. George Frazier was a north instructor, Bob Hicks was a south instructor, and they were in charge of doing all the volunteer schools in the north end and south end of the state. Here now, you've got guys that have been firemen, they've been through instructor school, and they do classes for the state and around the area where they are. But the academy at this point in time, it's grown so much, I just can't believe where it's sitting. It's just fantastic. When the equipment that's here now, it's just unbelievable. The air crash truck, that was just a dream when we were here. We had to build our own props. Got a ladder truck come out of Alabama, and it was antique when we got it. I think it was 1947 model, but we went down to Mobile and picked it up and drove it back, and it was a hook and ladder type. Had to have a driver on the back and a driver in the front, and boy, was that a trip coming back this way. You had no control of speed in the back, but the fellow in front, he said he didn't worry about the back, he had the front, and he took care of it. All you got to do was take care of the back. So we made it back, but we used that vehicle quite a while, and what's out there now is just unbelievable. It's a lot of vehicles.
Is there any message you would like to leave the future firefighters?
The future firefighters, if they're going to stay in this business, the biggest thing I'm going to tell them, they need to get an education. That is one thing that you'll never do. You'll never get overqualified for the job. The more your experience, the more education you get, the better off you're going to be. I started, like I said, in the fire service in '76. I retired sometimes in the 2000 year, probably around 2010, somewhere in there. I've got out of the paid side of it. And right now I'm still in the volunteer department trying to help them and trying to educate them as best I can. But I'm 77 years old and still going, and I still learn every day. And the only thing I tell you, go get your education, keep getting classes. If they do a tiddlywink class, go get it. You might need it one day when you're in the fire service. Don't turn any class down, no schools down. Go get an education. That's the only thing that's going to make it safer for you in the fire service, because it is definitely a dangerous job.
Would you like to make one last comment about the education level at the academy here? Talking about getting your education, you know?
The education that you can get here at the academy is right on up there now. They stand up to date with the modern stuff that's out there. They know what they're doing. They've got direction enough to know that they get the education they have to have in order to do the education for them. And I don't think you're going to find anything any better anywhere in the country. This is about the top academy that's anywhere, and it's been that way for years. And they teach, we've taught everything from water rescue to fire, EMS, it's all here. And all they've got to do is apply themselves here and get the education.
You want to make one last quick comment about, what the fire service and the academy means to you?
I have enjoyed my whole career in the fire service. I felt like that what I have done and what I've been through, I've tried to contribute all that I could to make a job safe for fellow firefighters. And I've gone through and worked my way up through ranks. I've been a fire chief. I can tell you what all that's all about. But the biggest thing I can tell you is I'm proud of the fact that education, I was able to get more than what a lot of people were. And it makes a big difference in the job that you do. Take it the easy way instead of the hard way. That's what I do.